A secret pact signed in silence, a cyberattack that shut down a nation, and a shadow war that no one is willing to claim. This is not just politics, it's a crime story unfolding in real time, where betrayal hides behind every handshake and explosions are blamed on ghosts. Welcome to the untold story of the Pakistan-Saudi Defense Agreement and the mysterious attacks shaking Israel. In the first week of September, the news broke like lightning across international media. Pakistan and Saudi Arabia had signed a defense agreement. At first glance, the announcement seemed routine. Nations often enter into strategic partnerships for military cooperation, technology exchange, or security guarantees. But this pact felt different from the very beginning. Unlike traditional defense deals that are announced with press conferences, handshakes, and photo opportunities, this one was carried out quietly, almost in the shadows. Only a brief statement was released to the public. It spoke of mutual cooperation, intelligence sharing, and regional security. Yet behind the soft wording, there was something much larger taking place. Investigators and journalists quickly noticed strange movements in both countries. In Islamabad, military convoys moved at night, transporting unmarked cargo toward air bases. In Riyadh, radar images picked up flights of cargo planes leaving at unusual hours, heading toward undisclosed locations. There were no official records of these flights. When asked, government spokesmen gave vague replies, avoiding details. Whispers began to circulate among intelligence circles. Sources claimed the agreement included far more than defense promises. It was not just about training soldiers or sharing technology. According to leaks, the pact outlined covert operations, special missions that could change the balance of power in the Middle East. Soon, evidence of secret collaboration surfaced. Satellite images revealed unusual activity in remote desert regions. New structures were being built, highly secure compounds surrounded by walls and guarded day and night. Nobody knew what lay inside, but experts speculated they were command centers for surveillance and cyber operations. Even more puzzling were the encrypted messages exchanged between Islamabad and Riyadh. Cybersecurity specialists who intercepted fragments of these transmissions described them as highly advanced, using encryption methods rarely seen in the region. This was not casual communication. It suggested planning, coordination, and preparation for something beyond ordinary defense measures. Ordinary citizens noticed changes as well. In cities close to military zones, locals reported strange sights: long convoys of trucks covered with tarps, helicopters flying without lights, and foreign engineers quietly arriving with no public record of their presence. Curiosity grew, but answers were scarce. Meanwhile, international observers struggled to understand the motive. Why would Pakistan and Saudi Arabia rush into such a deep, secretive alliance at this time? Some argued it was a move to counter Iran's growing influence. Others believed it was meant to challenge Israel's dominance in regional security. Few even suggested it was about preparing for future conflicts in cyberspace rather than on the battlefield. What made the story feel like a crime was not the agreement itself, but the secrecy and deception surrounding it. Hidden movements, concealed flights, encrypted messages, all pointed toward something more dangerous than officials admitted. The public was left with one pressing question: if the pact was truly about peace and defense, why was it hidden under so much secrecy? The answer, as later events revealed, was far darker than anyone expected. Only days after the Pakistan-Saudi Arabia defense agreement was announced, Israel was hit by something it had never experienced before. Entire sections of its cyber infrastructure collapsed within hours, leaving security agencies scrambling to respond. It began silently, without alarms or warnings. Banking systems froze, government portals went offline, and even military communications experienced sudden interruptions. At first, officials dismissed it as a technical fault. But when hospitals, airports, and energy networks began reporting failures at the same time, it was clear this was no accident. Israel was under cyber attack. Forensic teams moved quickly to trace the source. What they found was both alarming and confusing. The attack did not originate from a single location. Instead, it was routed through dozens of servers spread across the globe: Russia, Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. Each digital footprint overlapped, making it nearly impossible to pinpoint the mastermind. Yet, fragments of code raised suspicions. Some of the malware resembled tools used in past South Asian operations, while other parts had hallmarks of Gulf-based cyber units. Investigators uncovered something even more disturbing. A hidden piece of the attack had infiltrated Israel's early warning radar systems designed to detect incoming missiles. For several hours, those radars went completely dark. If a real attack had occurred during that window, Israel would not have been able to respond in time. This was not just a breach, it was a direct threat to national survival. Behind closed doors, a classified report suggested that the hackers had also stolen sensitive blueprints. These were not ordinary files, but detailed schematics of Israel's Iron Dome defense system, the very shield that protected its skies. If those blueprints had indeed been taken, it meant someone now held the keys to understanding and possibly defeating Israel's most trusted defense. The report was never released publicly, but whispers of it reached underground cybercrime forums. Encrypted chat rooms carried vague references to Iron Shield files being in circulation. Nobody knew whether these files were genuine, but the possibility alone created panic in intelligence communities worldwide. The cyber breach shook Israel's confidence. For a nation known for its advanced technology, the idea that outsiders could penetrate its most secure systems was unthinkable. Analysts debated who could be behind such a sophisticated operation. Some pointed directly to Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, claiming the new defense pact gave them the motive and combined resources to strike. Others argued it could have been a false flag staged by a third country to frame the alliance and ignite regional conflict. Yet the most chilling theory came from within Israel itself. Experts warned that the attackers might not have been a government at all, but a rogue faction working independently, exploiting the chaos created by the defense pact. If true, it meant global security was not only threatened by states, but also by powerful actors operating in the shadows. As investigators pieced together the fragments, one truth became clear: the cyberattack was not the end, but only the beginning. Something larger was unfolding, something that would soon move beyond computer screens and into real-world destruction. The cyber breach had barely settled when Israel was struck again, this time not in cyberspace, but in the skies above its borders. Late one night, residents in northern towns reported strange humming sounds like the buzz of mechanical bees. Minutes later, communication towers and radar stations erupted in flames. The attackers had moved from computers to drones. These were not ordinary drones. They were small, almost invisible to the naked eye, and flew low to avoid radar detection. Witnesses described them as ghost-like machines gliding silently through the darkness before dropping explosives with surgical precision. Within hours, key installations along Israel's northern border had been disabled. Forensic experts studying the remains of the drones discovered something unusual. Their parts came from multiple origins: advanced chips sourced from Western suppliers, body frames resembling Chinese models, and batteries traced to Eastern markets. This mix suggested careful planning, assembling drones that could not be linked directly to a single country. It was a weapon designed to confuse investigators. The scale of the attacks left Israel shaken. Unlike missiles, which could be tracked and intercepted, these drones slipped through undetected. The damage was targeted, not random. Communication hubs were hit first, followed by surveillance posts, and finally radar units. It was as if the attackers knew exactly where to strike to blind Israel's defenses. What made the situation even more disturbing was the discovery of an abandoned warehouse in a third country. Intelligence sources revealed that the drones had been assembled there, shipped in pieces, and then smuggled across borders. This method erased direct links to any nation. Yet, scattered evidence hinted at coordination between Pakistani and Saudi networks. A shipment manifest contained coded references, and intercepted signals matched encryption styles seen in earlier transmissions between Islamabad and Riyadh. Still, nothing was conclusive. The line between state operation and rogue faction blurred further. Were these drone strikes an official mission carried out under the new defense pact, or were hidden actors inside the alliance using the cover of secrecy for their own agendas? The lack of answers only deepened the mystery. Israel responded quickly, grounding flights in northern regions and deploying additional anti-air systems, but the fear had already taken hold. If drones could penetrate so easily once, they could do it again, perhaps on a larger scale. Citizens began questioning Whether the government could truly protect them, international media covered the story with alarm. Analysts debated whether this was the start of a new kind of warfare, cheap, fast, and nearly untraceable. Unlike missiles costing millions, these drones could be built quietly and launched in swarms, overwhelming even the most advanced defense systems. For investigators, the attacks marked a turning point. The cyber breach had been invisible, an attack of codes and signals, but the drone strikes brought destruction into the physical world, proving that whoever was behind the operations had no intention of stopping at digital disruption. It was the first shadow strike, and it carried a chilling message. The war had already begun, but its masterminds remained hidden. As the cyber breach and drone strikes dominated global headlines, another layer of the crisis quietly unfolded in background. This time, the battlefield was not Israel's borders or cyberspace. It was within the very walls of the Pakistan-Saudi alliance. The true crime was not only about external attacks, but also about betrayal from within. Leaked intelligence documents suggested that not all officials supported the covert operations linked to the defense pact. Behind closed doors, disagreements grew. Some argued that the pact was meant to strengthen security, not to launch secret missions. Others feared that the alliance had already gone too far and would provoke a regional war neither Pakistan nor Saudi Arabia was prepared to handle. Soon, mysterious incidents began to occur. A senior intelligence officer scheduled to travel to Istanbul vanished after boarding his flight. His name disappeared from the airline records and his luggage never arrived. Weeks later, another official, known for voicing concerns about the pact, was found dead in his apartment. The report declared it a suicide, but investigators noticed troubling details. The weapon bore no fingerprints, the apartment's CCTV cameras had been erased, and an encrypted laptop was missing. The pattern pointed to a silent purge. Those who questioned the operations were being silenced, either removed or eliminated. Journalists began to piece together fragments of the story. Whistleblowers spoke anonymously, claiming that secret meetings were taking place between factions within the intelligence community. One faction wanted to continue pushing forward with covert missions, while another sought to leak information to Western agencies in exchange for protection. The leaks themselves grew more dangerous. Confidential files suddenly surfaced in foreign hands, containing details of encrypted communications and partial blueprints of drone designs. These leaks were not accidental. Someone from within the alliance was deliberately passing sensitive information to outside forces. Whether it was to sabotage the pact or to protect themselves remained unclear. Each new revelation deepened the mystery. Who could be trusted, who was loyal to the alliance, and who had already switched sides? The very secrecy that gave the pact its strength was now becoming its greatest weakness. The betrayal also raised an unsettling possibility. If insiders were leaking data, could they also be staging attacks to make the alliance appear guilty? Analysts began to question whether some of the strikes on Israel were not officially sanctioned at all, but carried out by rogue players hidden under the shield of the pact. If true, then the alliance had lost control of its own creation. The silence surrounding the betrayals was as chilling as the events themselves. Governments denied everything, officials disappeared, and files went missing. Yet the evidence of treachery could not be ignored. The Pakistan-Saudi pact, once seen as a powerful symbol of unity, was now tearing itself apart from within. The crime at this stage was no longer about cyberattacks or drones. It was about loyalty bought and sold in the shadows, where betrayal was punished with death, and truth was buried beneath layers of secrecy. By the last week of September, tension in the Middle East had reached its highest point in years. The cyberattacks and drone strikes had left Israel vulnerable, while the Pakistan-Saudi pact remained wrapped in secrecy. Then, just as global media began to speculate whether the crisis would calm down, the most devastating event unfolded. A massive explosion tore through a heavily guarded Israeli facility located deep in the desert. Officially, the site was described as a research center for energy development, but intelligence experts had long known it to be part of Israel's missile program, a place where advanced long-range weapons were tested and stored. The blast was so powerful that it registered on seismic sensors across the region. Black smoke rose into the sky, and satellite images later revealed the scale of destruction. Entire buildings reduced to rubble, multiple fire points burning simultaneously, and underground bunkers ripped open. Initial government statements claimed it was an accident, the result of a fuel leak or technical malfunction. But forensic evidence told another story. Independent analysts studying the images noticed signs of deliberate sabotage. The explosion did not start in one location, but in several areas at once, suggesting carefully planted devices or coordinated strikes. In addition, Israeli radars had recorded unidentified aerial objects in the area shortly before the blastmish, too small to be tracked properly, possibly drones similar to those used in earlier attacks. The event sent shockwaves through the international community. Media outlets rushed to connect the dots, pointing fingers at the Pakistan-Saudi Defense Pact. If the explosion was indeed an attack, it marked the boldest and most dangerous operation yet, a direct strike at the heart of Israel's strategic power. But just as this theory gained traction, a classified Western intelligence leak introduced a shocking twist. The report suggested that the operation might not have been carried out by Pakistan or Saudi Arabia at all. Instead, it pointed to an unidentified third actor, a hidden power that had used the alliance as cover, making it appear responsible while pursuing its own secret agenda. This revelation added a new layer of uncertainty. If a third actor was truly behind the sabotage, it meant the entire crisis had been manipulated from the shadows. The Pakistan-Saudi pact might have been only a convenient shield, a distraction while someone else pushed the region toward chaos. For investigators, the truth remained elusive. The explosion closed one chapter but opened many more questions. Who had the resources to stage such a sophisticated attack? Who benefited from framing the alliance? And most importantly, how far were the hidden players willing to go? By the end of the month, Israel had reinforced its defenses. Pakistan and Saudi Arabia continued to deny involvement, and intelligence agencies worldwide scrambled to find answers. Yet no one could say with certainty who had delivered the final blow. The case left behind only shadows of betrayal, manipulation, and unseen hands steering the future of nations. The true crime was not just the destruction of a facility, but the exposure of a dangerous reality. In the world of secret alliances and hidden wars, the truth is always the first casualty.